Once upon a time, there was a little girl who went to the crafting academy. She wanted to teach some techniques and make it possible for people to make and send cards. She took on very hazardous duties to ruthlessly choose Copic colors, and now they are here together in this video. Her name is Sandy.
This is another Copic coloring video. I'm calling it my Charlie's Angels video simply because I got 3 girls from Saturated Canary and put them together in one image, and Charlie's Angels is just a thing to get you to click on the video, and it worked, didn't it? So with this face, I'm starting with E01, and I'll put a base coat down on the whole face, and give a little color on her neck. My second color is going to be E53 on this one, E53, and I'm going to add her shadows. Get a little bit under her nose, a little on the sides of her nose, and then under her hair. Her hair is going to be black, so she's going to have a lot more coming down there, but I'll put a little bit to get it started. I'm going to do my blending in a minute because what I'm going to add first is going to be, scary enough, a little B41. I know it's a dark blue or a bright blue or whatever you want to call it, but it's going to give a real different flavor to her hair than the other gals. And she's going to have some blue in her hair, so I thought some little bit of blue shadows in her face would be nice. Just a little tiny bit. You can always add more, but you can't take it away, so you don't want to get crazy with it. And now I'm going to go back in with my E53 again, and I'm going to increase the shadows. And I'm doing it on top of that B41 so that I'm covering up some of the B41 so it doesn't look as blue. Her whole neck should be in shadow. And we'll deepen some of this right around her eyes. And all of this under her hair. And now I'm going to go back in one more time with my E01 and go over the edges and just flick to get the color blended in there. And I want to leave some highlights, so I don't want to go over everything too much. Leave some highlights so she does look like she has some dimension. The next face combo is going to be this one in the middle. And she's going to be all peachy and light because she's blonde. So I'm using E50 for the base. Now I don't normally color a bunch of faces at once in one image, and I normally wouldn't color them all different if I did. This is just for the sake of the experiment. But if you do a lot of people and you have a lot of different ones you want in one scene, grabbing different color combinations for skin tones can differentiate between them. So now I'm going to use some E95 and add the shadows. This arm is all the way in the back, so it's going to have more shadow, as is her neck. It's going to be underneath her chin. I'm going to put a little bit on the side of her arm. Underneath of her eyes, bottom of the chin, bottom of the nose, a little bit on either side of her nose. And I'm going to take my shadow color for this one is BV000, 3 zeros. And if it scares you, use 4 zeros. as you get used to it, you'll want even to go with darker colors, like me. Get more excited about the darker colors the more I use them. But you can see it adds just a realistic skin tone to her. Just a little bit more. Now I'm going to go back in with my E50 first and do some blending just to see where that color's going, because I don't want to add too much of the orangey peachy color and then make her look just like the girl on the left. I'm going to try to keep them looking different. But I think she's going to need a little bit more than that, because otherwise she's going to feel kind of yellow and pasty. I'm going to add a little bit more, but I'm going to add it in a small, tiny quantity by touching the tip of my E50 with the E95. So I'm going to get just a little bit of a medium tone color in there to warm her skin up without adding a whole lot more of that E95. Because straight up that color's pretty strong, and unless it's actually in a real shadow, I don't want to get too much of it on there. Okay, so that's skin number 2. And skin number 3 is going to be E51 for the base. This is my favorite one. E51 is typically just what I grab when I'm going to do any skin tones. And this is my favorite medium tone color. It's E11. I just really like how the two of these blend together and how they work on the skin. Her whole neck will be in shadow. And a little bit under her hand. And this again is one of my favorite shadow colors, and it's going to be BV01. Yes, BV01. Very punchy color, but I'm adding just a tiny bit of it in the darkest shadow areas. I'm not going to put it everywhere else. Now I can go back in with my E51 and soften things up. And go again over top of that purple, so it goes back to being more of a natural color. I may add more of any of these as I go. I have no idea how I'll remember which ones are which when it comes down to the coloring of them later. But that is the 3 skin tones. The hair, I'm going to start with the girl in the back because she's going to be the blonde. And since she's going to have the lightest hair, I want to leave her being first so that any of that hair that may color over doesn't drag in color. Like if I start coloring the dark hair over here, I'm going to pull color into my yellow, and I don't want to do that. So I'm using I'm using Y21 for my base for this dirty blonde hair. the Farrah Fawcett Dirty Blonde. Actually, she's a little more platinum, I suppose, than Dirty Blonde. But I want her to be clearly a blonde in this. Now in my Digi, I cut off some of this, but there should be some more hairs out here, so I'm just gonna throw a few in. I'm gonna add next her dark shadows, and I got an E25 to do that with. So I'm gonna go into the spots where it's really completely underneath, and I'm gonna give her some really darks right down in here, because that's going to make the lighter parts look lighter. And a little bit more here, a little bit at the bottom, tiny bit for her part. And then I'm just going to do a few wisps in a couple spots, not really much. This one I want to look like it's tucking behind that, so I want it to get a little darker right in here. But adding just little tiny bits here and there. I should do a little bit more in here because I want to be sure that that looks like it's going down and behind as well. So if it stays too bright, it's going to not look like it's going behind. And now my medium is an E31. I'm going to soften up all of the spots where that E25 joins the Y21. Little by little. And all of this back in here I want to be the medium, because none of that's going to be in highlight area. I can go back in and smooth out some of that, but I've got the most of it done so that at least when I have my darker colors on either side of it, I'm not going to mess that up further. Alright, next I'm going to do the gal on the left, and she is going to have black hair. And it's going to have a blue base to it. Now, I use different colors depending on what I feel like doing. This is a B06, so it's pretty intense. You can definitely use a lighter one if you want, but I'm just going to color a base coat over the whole thing. And this is going to give it a little more life than just being a straight up black hair. Black hair usually has some color in it, whether or not the hair is colored as well. Some people do put streaks and things, but usually black has a little bit of something else in it, whether it's a blue or a purple or a brown. So I'm just putting in a base coat. Doesn't even have to be tidy, as you can see, because I'm going to cover up most of it. And now I'm taking my C8 marker. This is going to be my darkest. And I may go back in later with a really, really dark if I need to, because I can get darker than a C8. And I'm going to draw my own wisps at the end of the underside of her hair here. You can go outside of the stamp if you're coloring over it enough that nobody's going to see that you're outside the lines of the stamp. And now, I don't know if you can probably see it on the video, but there are sections that are behind other sections as her hair is blowing in the wind. So I'm trying to create different areas where hairs go behind and in front of other sections, because that's going to make it look more realistic. If I colored her with helmet hair so it all looked like one tidy thing, it wouldn't look windblown and wispy like she's drawn. And I like it all windblown and wispy. I am going to trim this out, of course, at the end, so I don't really have to fuss too much about staying in lines inside that circle. So I've got a bunch of that dark color in there now, and I'm going to go over almost all of it with a C4, because I want to cover up the worst of that blue, get rid of a lot of that overall color, and dull it way down so she doesn't end up looking like she has blue hair in the final drawing. Bring that up. And now I'm going to go get a, let's see, I'm going to grab a C7. It'll be a little bit lighter than the C8 that I already used, because I want to add a little bit more to cover up more of the darks. But I'm going to let that C8 be most of the dark. My pen is just barely touching the surface, just following along where the hairs are. Trying to give her some general shape to her hair. But the highlights, I'm leaving blue so that the spots that look like the light's hitting them are going to be this beautiful blue highlight. Still see a little too much blue right in here. Okay. That is hair number 2. And now we're going to go for a red head here. And I'm going to start with a YR14. Give her some bright color. It's going to end up looking a little more brown, but I'm just going to have a lot of red in it. So I want it to look very different than the other 2 gals. My dark color on this one, I'm going to use an E79. And I'm just going to put it in the darkest section. Again, underneath of where the hair is, that's going to be the dark spot, way down in there. And then I want to find the spots where hairs are going behind each other and create my shadows where they crease, where they go together. And some along the part. I apologize, I normally would turn the paper around 6 ways to Sunday while I'm coloring something like this. But I'm trying to keep the paper still so that you can watch. Let's see, I want just a little bit more color dragged around there. And the medium tone is my favorite of the browns, which is E37, and I'm going to add a lot of that. And just like I did with allowing the blue to be the highlights on the girl on the left, I'm going to allow that initial orange to be the highlights for this one. Everything else on her is going to go nice and brown. So she'll end up looking like a redhead, but an auburny redhead. Looking in the same direction that the part's going in to drag those colors. I'm just drawing in my own hairs as I go. Take my YR14 one more time. And I'm just going to go over it to blend out some of these so she doesn't end up looking like she's got blobbies. And then I'll just soften up the look of the hair. It's also pulling a little bit of the color out of the other browns so that more of this golden color will show. Now let's do them some eyes. Let's do some brown eyes on our girl with blue hair. We use the E37. And we'll do some blue eyes on our blonde. And I'm using B04. And I'm going to do some green eyes on the redhead. And this is G03. That way they each have eyes that contrast with their hair, so their eyes really pop. If I had done her with brown eyes, her eyes just would not stand out that way. And now I'm going to do some quick lips on everybody with a darker pink on my top lips. That's an RV34. So she's going to have a lighter color here. This is an RV23. And then I need to go with a darker one. I'm picking out which one here. Let's randomly grab a E04 for her top lip. And I'm going to go back over it with the RV34 just to make sure it's kind of in the same color family that it goes with her bottom lip. And then back here she's going to be all bright and cheerful, so she's going to have the RV23, and I'm going to add, for lips there's just no rules, so you can do whatever you want. I'm going to go bright and do an RV04 on her top lip. I'm going to start with a red shirt on this gal. Since she has very dark hair, she can tolerate having a really strong red shirt. So I am coloring a base coat of R24. A really good solid red, and I love how it blends with the other colors I will be using. The dark that I'm going to be using is an R89, so I'm going to give her shadows in the places where her shadows should be, underneath of her breastises, as Glozell would say. If you have not seen Glozell's videos, you really should go Google Glozell. Go look for her on YouTube. She is hysterically funny. And the medium tone is going to be R37. And as I color over top of the red, that dark red, I put enough ink down, it just starts automatically blending that dark red into this R37. There's a lot of different techniques you can use to get the colors to blend, but I usually just scrub at them a little bit until they start to loosen up. Just loosen up the pigment and get them to blend. And now I'll go back to my R24 and go over again to soften out that R37 and make it work really well. Alright, there's the red shirt. Next I'm going to do the gal on the right. She is going to have, well, let's do the gal in the middle first because she's got lighter colors. I'm going to do a purple outfit, light purple on her. And I want her to not mess up if I touch that sleeve because I think I want to do that sleeve in red. Now her skirt stops in the stamp, so I'm just going to continue it on down. And since I'm going to trim it anyway, I'm going to just go over the edges so that I can keep these strokes long and straight and get them pretty even. And get that color all the way out to the edge. And that part is still her skirt, and in there, and then the pocket. Oh, sorry, that was BV02. I did not share that. Sorry about that. And her shadows, I'm going to add a little bit of V22, which is just going to dull it out a little bit. And give me a little difference between some of these panels where the folds are. And then I'll go in with some BV34 and add a little more contrast. Since I've got so much ink on them, all I have to do is flick, and they mostly blend just because there's enough ink on the paper. And then a shadow on her pocket, and then some of this is going to be in shadow back here and underneath of her skirt. And I'll take my BV02 and go back in just a little bit more to blend out some of those spots. I think I've totally lost that V22 that I pulled in there, but that is how it goes. Now I want to do her shirt in a very light blue violet, so I'm going to just add a tiny bit of the BV02 that I used down below, and her outfit will match. I'm just going along some of the shadows. And then I'm going to take my BV with 4 zeros, BV000000, and I'm just going to color over top of those. So this really light purple then will pull the shadows that I've drawn, and then it'll look like she's got kind of a white shirt, white or light purple, and it'll go just perfectly with her skirt. If I continue to scrub over them, I can soften some of that if I got too much shadow in there easily enough. And now the last shirt is our gal of many colors. She's going to start off with having a mostly yellow little top here. So this is Y17. As it is never too often to repeat, the best color in the entire Copic collection, for sure. And add some shadows with a YR23. Just going to flick over top. Give her some depth on her shirt. Soften that one spot. The others I don't mind having a line. It adds definition, but that sleeve was bugging me. And she's going to be wearing blue and red for the rest of her outfit. So she's going to have blue pants. I'm going to give her dark shadows here. And that is a B97. And my B95, this is my B97 and B95 are my favorite jeans colors. If you're doing any denim, these are a great combination for that. So she ends up with a little bit of dimension there. And then I'm going to do some of these stripes on her little shirt. And the last thing is going to be her R08, because I wanted another red, but I wanted it to be more of a cherry red, so it's different from the gal on the left. And her little sleeveys here will be that, and we'll add a little stripe. And almost done. Last touch is going to be adding some shadows onto the envelope she's holding. So I'm going to add them with the BB02 and then blending it out just like I did on the shirt in the middle, except I'll make sure that I leave some white envelope on this one, because I'm not going for a purple envelope, I'm just going for a white envelope with some dimension. Then the very last, very last is going to be the Copics on the girl in the middle. And I'm just going to add some shadows at the bottom since they're going into her pocket. And that's a C4, and now I'm just going over it with a C1. And I'll take just some of the random colors that I've had here on the desk and add some cap colors. So she has a selection of Copics in her little pocket, ready for any type of Charlie's Angel emergency, because you never know when there's going to be an emergency that you need Copic markers for. The blog post link will be in the doobly-doo down below as well if you want to go see stills of the image itself, so you can sort of see how the colors played out next to each other and which combinations you like better, so that you can go get some markers and try it yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I appreciate your time spent with me here on my channel. If you would like to get more videos like this, please click the link in the doobly-doo down below, hit subscribe, and then make sure you go to your subscriptions page and hover over my channel name, Sandy Allnock, and make sure that you click on email upon upload, I think is what it's called, so that you get an email when I put a video up, which is usually every Friday. If you also want more instruction on coloring, I did not talk about light sources or anything in this because I have a whole class on light and shadow over at Creative Ladder, and you are welcome to go and sign up for it. It's at creativeladder.com/chiaroscuro. Don't worry, there's a link in the doobly-doo down below. You don't have to learn how to spell that. And you're welcome to come and join us and learn all about light sources and how they play out on objects when you color them. Commercial over. I am going to sign off now, and I would like to know in a comment in the doobly-doo down below, what are your favorite color combinations? I would love to know because I'm always interested in more color combinations. Alright, I will see you guys next Friday. Bye now.